For almost 30 years, U.S. policy toward the Islamic Republic of Iran has emphasized diplomatic isolation, economic pressure, and thinly veiled support for regime change in Tehran. At the same time, successive U.S. administrations have periodically tried to elicit Iranian cooperation on specific issues. This dual-track approach has not worked to contain Iran. It has not advanced U.S. interests. Indeed, it has damaged the interests of the United States and its allies in the Middle East and undermined regional stability. My co-author, Hilary Mann Leverett, and I believe that it is time for the United States to reorient its policy toward the Islamic Republic of Iran as fundamentally as President Nixon reoriented U.S. policy toward the People's Republic of China in the early 1970s. We believe that this kind of fundamental reorientation would be most effectively embodied in the negotiation of a U.S.-Iranian grand bargain, in which all the principal bilateral differences between the two countries would be put on the table and resolved as a package.
We actually have a 20-year history of periodic cooperation with the Islamic Republic of Iran on particular issues, even though the U.S. policy debate about Iran does not reflect that. The first Bush administration, for example, cooperated with Iran, negotiated with Iran to free the remaining U.S. hostages from Lebanon. The Clinton administration cooperated with Iran to supply arms to the Bosnian Muslims during the 1990s. Even this administration, the current George Bush administration, worked with Iran over Afghanistan and al-Qaeda for more than a 2-year period. Following each of the tactical talks that U.S. officials had with Iranian officials, pretty much over the past 20 years, my co-author Flint Leverett and I were told that in each of these cases, of these talks, Iranian officials thought that not only could the U.S. and Iran cooperate over issue-specific topics, but that cooperation would, they hoped, they anticipated, would lead to a broader rapprochement between the U.S. and Iran, and in each case they were wrong. The historical record and my own experience indicate that the Islamic Republic for over 20 years, or nearly 20 years now, has acted as a rational state, capable of conducting its foreign policy on the basis of national interest, not just ideology. However, successive U.S. administrations terminated their issue-specific cooperation with Iran primarily because of concerns about domestic U.S. political backlash. Based on my own experience dealing with the Iranians, I don't think an attempt at incremental, step-by-step engagement or talks with the Iranians between the U.S. and Iran would work at this point.
Iran is not just a threat to be managed. Rather, its strategic location, its growing influence and standing in key regional arenas, and its enormous hydrocarbon resources make it a critical country for the United States. The rationale for a U.S.-Iranian grand bargain is for the United States to engage the Islamic Republic on the basis of its interests and reach a broad-based strategic understanding in which all of the major bilateral differences between our two countries would be resolved. The goal of that understanding, from an American perspective, would be to get the Islamic Republic to redirect the exercise of its influence so that influence worked in support of U.S. objectives rather than against them. This was the model that President Nixon applied to U.S. policy toward the People's Republic of China in the early 1970s. It is the model that needs to be applied to U.S.-Iranian relations today.